Good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year. It is 2020, and we are starting it out with another Flying with Overkill F-18C Hornet. We've got a couple courses coming up in quick succession, so today we're going to go into entering, editing, and navigating waypoints. We're going to talk about the AutoPilot, and possibly a couple other features depending on how well we get through things and how quickly it happens. So, without further ado, let's jump right into it. So the first thing I'm going to do is square up my displays. We're going to move the HSI up to the top right here. So let's go ahead and just set that to the EW page for now. Let's find our HSI here. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is let's discuss the coordinates and how to find them. Okay, that's step one. I'm starting with a completely clean aircraft. Now in most missions that you'll get into, the waypoints will be pre-assigned. You'll already have your sequences, but I'm going to show you how to do it all from scratch. That way you know. Okay, so let's go into the F10 map first. So the first thing we're going to do is hit satellite. And the reason why I do that is because it's easier on the eyes. Has no bearing to anything else. So the first thing that I want you guys to be aware of is the coordinates of your mouse, which are displayed up here in the top left. Now, we are currently in the correct format that we need to enter standard waypoints into the F-18. Okay, this is degrees, minutes, and seconds. Okay, in the Caucasus map, you will always enter north and then east coordinates first. Okay, and then you also get your elevation here at the end of the coordinate list. Now, if you were going to be using a mouse location, okay, if you're in, if you're using a monitor, it's going to be a little bit easier for you because all you need is a pen and paper, okay, and you can just move your mouse to where it is and you get all the information you need. If you're in VR, it gets a little bit trickier, not going to lie. You're going to want a pen and paper or a notepad on your computer, something open that makes it easy to reference. So I'm going to go ahead and open a notepad for a second. All right. And we'll go ahead and clear that. So what I do when I'm in VR, just because it makes it a little bit easier, I'll just bring this up like so. Alright, and if I'm going to enter in a coordinate, alright, I'm going to move my mouse to it, but I can't move my mouse and click in the notepad. Like right now the notepad is highlighted. So how I recommend you doing this is select your mouse to the location you want, and let's go ahead and find something here. And I'm going to click on that. It's going to make the notepad go away, but let's find a waypoint, something far out, like maybe over here. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm not going to move my mouse now. I'm just going to Alt Tab, find my notepad, and bring it up and start typing. So we're going to do north, and then 415358. Okay, and however you type it out is completely up to you. And enter. I'm going to do my easting at 42-30-36. Okay, we're not going to worry about the elevation for this because it's just an aerial waypoint. We don't need the elevation. Alright, now it's really important you don't bump your mouse or anything like that, because any kind of movement in your coordinates change. So don't bump your mouse when doing this, but this is the best way I can think of. I believe there is a mod that creates a DCS scratch pad, something that you can sort of bring up and type into. I haven't tried it out in the latest release. I will look into that and possibly put together a video for it. It's pretty easy to use if memory serves, but I'll see if I can find it and throw it in the description below so you guys can check it out. Alright, so that's how we find waypoints with our mouse. Now let's look into the options that are available to us already in DCS. So let's make our first waypoint Batumi. Okay, if you're using an airfield, makes it really easy. All you gotta do is highlight the airfield. Okay, and you get all the information about the airfield. So we have Batumi, we have its ICO code, we have what coalition it's currently set to, the elevation. This is an important one for any kind of ground waypoint. I highly recommend you guys always enter these if it's a ground waypoint. Okay, and then you have your coordinates here. Okay, so and then you also get your TACAN, which we'll go over later. So let's use Batumi as our first waypoint. And let's take a look at the HSI. So let's go back to the cockpit. Now what we're going to need for today's portion for this first part is we're going to need the UFC and we're going to need the HSI. So I'm just going to bring those in as close as I can. That way you guys get as clear a view as you can. That works. There we go. Alright, so step one is, well, yeah, step one, let's go ahead and just go through what we got. So we're going to go into data. Alright, and we get the current waypoint information. It's the currently selected waypoint. So waypoint 0. If you start on the ground or on the boat, you're always going to have a waypoint 0 with its current coordinates. Alright, now we don't want to edit these in case we want to return back home, right? So what we're going to do is go waypoint 1. Now you can see everything's empty. We don't have a waypoint 1 in the system yet. Now, it works out pretty easily when you think about this, as long as you just take your time and look at everything. We want to use the UFC to enter our coordinates. So we're going to come here and find UFC. Alright, and then this is all pretty straightforward. You got your position, your elevation, your grid, and your offset, but we don't need to worry about that. So what we're going to do is position. And remember, I said we're in the Caucasus, so we're always going to start with north. And now we're going to go to our F10 map and read the northern coordinates. So here's our north, so everything beforehand. So 413611. 413611, enter. Alright, and then we're going to enter in our easting. Okay, so we're going to go back to F10, 413633. Oh, my mouse moved a little bit, forgive me. There we go. So 4136, now I forgot what it was, 11, is that right? 33. Well, you know what, let's do 11. Okay, so I made a mistake. Alright. So now let's edit this. So to edit it, we still have to do north and east first. So we're going to go position. If I hit east first, it won't let me. Alright, so we're going to do north, and we're just going to enter what's already there, 413611. So 413611. Okay, but now we need to edit the east. So we're going to hit easting. We're going to go back to our F10 map, and 413633 is what we're looking for. So 413633, enter, and it's edited. So now you've seen how to both enter and edit a waypoint. The one thing you cannot do with a waypoint is delete one. Okay, you can edit them, but you can't delete them. Alright, so now we're going to go to elevation. Now by default it's set in meters. We don't want meters, we want feet. And the elevation, I just happen to know it, but I'll show you guys where we saw it, right here. Okay, 32 feet. So we're just going to 32, enter. And if it goes off a foot here and there, not a problem. Don't worry about that. It's not going to change anything on your performance. Okay, now if there's a massive difference, then you have something to worry about. Alright, so we have waypoint 1 entered. Let's go ahead and enter waypoint 2. And I think for waypoint 2, let's use the coordinates that we created. Alright, so we're currently at the elevation. We want to get back to the first menu, so we're going to hit UFC again and take you back to the main menu. So we're going to do position again, north. I'm going to bring up my notepad, 415358. So 415358, enter. We need our easting, and 423036. 423036, enter. There's waypoint 2. Alright, now let's find a waypoint 3. Now if waypoint 3, let's make it a target. Okay, now this works if you had a friendly unit, okay, on the ground, a tank, a vehicle, something that you were using as a reference, hey, I'm being attacked, or if you just had red targets that were available to use as a waypoint. Alright, so we're going to use this guy here. We know that there's a bunch of targets here in the area, but we just want to find the center to use as a waypoint, as a reference point. So now we have it down here. Now the thing to think about these things here is if the format is not in this format, you can change the readout by hitting left, alt, and Y. And it will change the different coordinate options on both the target or selected unit and up there at the mouse location. Okay? And I'll go over all of these as they are needed. I don't want to go over them now and can just confuse people. So here we're back to our degrees, minutes, and seconds. So we're going to use this one here, 415031. So our timer went away, so we're going to go back to UFC, our screen timed out, excuse me. So we're going to go position 241, and I already forgot what it was, 5031. 5031, enter. And then easting, F10 again, 414752. 414752, enter. And again, it's a ground target, so we want to use the elevation, and if I remember correctly, it's 32 feet. It is. So we're going to use elevation, feet again, and because it's already there, I mean, we could type it again if we wanted, but we could have just hit enter. And there's our 31 feet again. Don't ask me why it doesn't like 32. Apparently, it's salted it or something. Alright, and let's do maybe one or two more. So let's go waypoint 4. And waypoint 4, so right now we're sort of flying here, then we're going to come back over here, now we're coming back here. Let's use Kataisi as waypoint 4. So Kataisi, we're going to do 421044. So we're just going to hit UFC, waypoint 4 is selected, position, north, and I forgot it again. 421044. And why that moved, I don't know. 421044. Enter. And then our easting, F10. 422944. 422944. Enter. We do want our elevation. And Katasi is at 147 feet. 147. Enter. Okay, so now we've got 4 waypoints set into the computer. All right, let's go back to the HSI for a second. Let's take a look at some of the symbology that we have available to us here. So I'm going to unpause and focus more on the HSI. There we go. Cool. All right, so I'm not going to go over every little thing about this. I will go over items as we need them. Okay, but starting with the waypoint indicator. So currently we have waypoint 4 selected. Let's go ahead and go back to 1. So the triangle with a circle and a dot. So here's our waypoint. Notice this circle with a dot, circle with a dot. So the heading indicator, which is this triangle right here, tells us which direction we need to head. Here's our referenced aircraft, so we would need to put this triangle at the nose of the aircraft to let us know that we're on a direct flight path to the waypoint. Waypoints will always be in a triangle with a circle and a dot, and it will always be inside the course ring. Okay? And then over here, this little rectangle over here is our reciprocal course, or the inverse course to the waypoint. So this is what we would do to fly away, right? This guy up here is a part of the AutoPilot system. It is the current heading select, which we'll go over later, but I want you guys to at least understand what this icon is. Okay, it's our current heading select programmed in the UFC. And you can also see that down here, currently set for due north. All right. Now, let's talk about sequences. Okay. And actually, sorry, before we get into sequence, up here in the top right, you will always have your currently selected waypoint information. So it's bearing 198 degrees from the aircraft at 22.7 nautical miles, and this is just a lock time of 19 minutes 26 seconds. This would be our intercept time, but obviously we're not moving, so it's not going to change one direction or the other. All right, so what we're going to do now is take a look at sequences and how to create one. So what a sequence is if you had a very specific route that you needed to fly. Okay, it wasn't just enough to fly direct to the waypoint. You have 4 or 5 waypoints that you need to patrol. This consider it a patrol zone. Well, in order to have an effective patrol zone, there has to be a route that you're flying. Okay, they want you to fly a specific road. Think of it like you know, is you're patrolling your neighborhood. Okay, you want to drive down very specific streets to run your patrol area, to patrol your area of operation, right? So we would need a route to do that, okay? Or if we were running an escort, there's a couple different scenarios where you would need routes. So let's talk about how to set a route up, also known as a sequence. All right, so we're going to get back into the UFC here in a minute. So hit F9, lock the camera in. So you have the option of 3 sequences, okay? Sequence 1 is now displayed. There is no sequence, which is why we're not seeing anything. Sequence 2 is now selected, but not displayed. You have to box it to display it. Press again, you get sequence 3 selected, not displayed, box to display it, and then back to sequence 1. So the UFC can store a total of 60 waypoints, and you can have a total of 3 sequences. Okay? So let's enter in a sequence. So we need to go back to data. All right, and what we're going to do here, we want to make sure we have the sequence that we want to edit selected down here. So in this case, sequence 1, and then we're going to come over here, and again, just read them. You'll be able to figure it out. Sequence UFC. So again, that UFC button. We want to use the UFC to create a sequence. So there's sequence. Now you have a couple different options here. These are ground speed, target, time on target, insert, and delete. Today we're only going to be worrying about insert and delete. The top ones are used more for weapon employment and other scenarios where you have to be at a waypoint at a very specific time, and we'll talk about that much later on. Okay. So today we're going to look at creating a sequence. Right now waypoint 0 is already a part of the sequence, okay, but we could delete that if we want to. So we could hit delete, 0, enter. Now we have nothing in the sequence. Alright, but let's go ahead and keep waypoint 0 part of it. So we're going to go insert, 0, enter, and we want waypoint, let's do waypoint 2 first. Okay, we want to go to that second one we created, so we're going to insert 2, and then we want to go from there back to Batumi. So we're going to go insert 1, because Batumi was our waypoint, our first waypoint that we entered. And then from there, we're going to go over to our target zone at waypoint 3. So we're going to go insert 3, enter. Okay, so now waypoints 0, 2, 1, and 3 are a part of sequence 1. So let's go back to the HSI. We're currently scaled at about 40 miles, so we may not be able to see everything. But sequence 1, alright, so we're going to go waypoint 0, okay, and we're going to enter sequence 1, and now you guys can see the triangle, the sort of triangle pattern that we created. And if we go waypoint, select waypoint 2, because it's the first one we entered, then to waypoint 1, then to waypoint 3. Okay, so that's kind of the handy part about a sequence, is now we have a very specific route we can fly to get to where we need to be. Okay, now if we wanted to create a different one, so let's say we had option 2, okay, we can go back into data, sequence UFC, we're going to create a whole new sequence now, and let's say we wanted to go from waypoint, say we wanted to fly a specific route direct to Katasi. Alright, so let's do this. Let's go insert waypoint, let's do 2 and then Katasi. So waypoint 2, which is that one that we created with the mouse, enter, and then we want to go to Katasi. Katasi is our emergency divert. Okay, so what we would see now, if we go over back to the HSI, sequence 2, we scale out a bit, notice there. So there's where waypoint 2 would be if we back down here, and there's only 2, so you can cycle. Notice it only bounces between the 2 because of the sequence we're on. So there would be waypoint 2, and then we would go direct, so we could fly direct to waypoint 2, but then we had to fly a specific route over to Katasi. Alright, so that's how sequences work. I hope that makes sense, guys. The nice thing about sequences is you can clear them. So we can go back to data, sequence UFC, we can delete 4, enter, and we can delete 2, enter. And the nice thing is when you're on a sequence with no waypoints attached to it, so sequence 2 and 3 right now have no waypoints attached to it, 0 waypoints, you can cycle through all of the waypoints currently inside the UFC. Alright, so next step is, let's talk about navigation for a minute. Oops. So we're going to go back, unlock our camera. When navigating, okay, when we're just flying around getting to our waypoints, what we're going to do is we want to make sure that waypoint is boxed. By boxing the waypoint, I'm not going to go over these because they're just not needed for what we do. Okay, so again, we still have our same bearing and heading and range information, but if we come up to the HUD, now we get new information. We get waypoint 1 selected down here, 22.7 nautical miles, and we get this little guy right here. This is our flight path indicator, or waypoint indicator, I'm sorry. Waypoint variance indicator, I believe, is what you would call it. But anyway, our goal here would be to steer the aircraft to the left until this square box was directly under the caret, the heading caret. And that means we are flying direct to the waypoint. It has nothing to do with the route that we set up, okay? We're not flying a route at that point. We're just turning the aircraft, no matter where we are on the map, and steering straight towards our target, okay? Target waypoint, whatever it may be. Alright, and we'll see what that looks like once we get up in the air. Alright, the next thing I want to show you guys is, actually, let's go ahead and get airborne, and I'll talk to you guys in just a minute. Alright guys, so we are wheels up now. We're climbing out, approaching 2,500 feet. So let's talk about the autopilot. This is a good time to do so. So in order to gauge the autopilot, we're going to come down here to the subsystem on the UFC and hit AP. And we have a couple of different options here. We have attitude hold, which is going to hold whatever current bank and pitch angle the aircraft is currently in. But what you have to watch for is the throttle. It will not control your speed. So as you continue to climb, obviously speed is going to become an issue. Okay, so keep that in mind. Then we have heading select. A selected heading can be entered into the UFC by using this toggle here. Okay, so we're going to press it any direction we want at the moment. Okay, notice that this moves as I hold that. Okay, so I'm right clicking it now. Okay, and left clicking it. And you can just tap it around too. Okay, and so what we're going to do here is, if I go into heading select, and let's select a heading of 300 degrees. So 300, hit enter. So now you can see that the heading select indicator has now moved to 30. You can see it down here, heading select 300. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back to autopilot. I'm going to hit heading select. And the aircraft's going to steer to that heading. Now notice it's maintaining the current pitch angle, right? It's not changing that. Now I can't have attitude hold and heading select engaged at the same time, because remember what I said. Attitude hold is going to hold whatever bank and whatever pitch angle you have. Okay, so you can't have these two engaged at the same time. What I can have is, now that we're approaching 11,000 feet, is I can do barometric altitude hold. That's what BALT is, barometric altitude hold. So we can click that. And typically you wouldn't want to do it when we're in a 5-degree climb, but you know, for demonstration purposes it's fine. So now what's going to happen is the aircraft is going to continue to steer itself until it's on a heading of 300 degrees. Okay? And then once it gets to 300, it's going to level out and maintain 11,190 feet. Alright? And then you can do the same thing with radar altimeter. You can hold your radar altitude. You want to be below 5,000 feet. And the thing to be aware of with radar altitude is, remember what radar altimeter is. It's sending a beam down to the ground and determining the distance between the surface below and the aircraft. Well, the surface below isn't perfectly flat and smooth, right? It's got hills and mountains and buildings and what have you, right? And changes altitude as you fly over land. So if you set it for, say, 2,000 feet radar altimeter, which is above ground level, essentially is what we're doing, the aircraft's going to constantly be changing pitch, right? It's going to constantly be going up and down with the terrain to maintain 2,000 feet above ground level. Now you can see what happened here. We've now gotten to a heading of 300. The aircraft's leveling out. Now as it leveled out, because it reduced its bank, the aircraft did climb a little bit, but not a huge deal. Okay? So those are the quick autopilot settings, or autopilot and handbasket. There really isn't a whole lot to it. It's pretty simple. If I want to change to 290, I don't have to hold it. I can just tap it over until I see 290 down here, or until I see that the bug move over. Alright? So, and you can do the same thing. So left for left, right for right. Okay? So kind of handy. It makes it nice as long as you're steady on a course. If you're on a current course and you want to keep it there, here's how I recommend doing this. So I'm going to use the A key or the paddle switch on my HOTAS, depending on wherever you have it bound, to disengage the autopilot. You can see both colons went out. Autopilot's free. The aircraft's mine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to steer to the left. Okay, and let's say I wanted to hold a heading of 260. Alright, so I'm going to get on 260 roughly. Right, doesn't have to be perfect here. Again, just for demo purposes. Then before I hit my autopilot, okay, because if I hit it right now, it's going to fly us back over to 294 degrees. Okay, I don't want to do that. So before I hit autopilot, I'm going to hit and hold the heading select. Then I'm going to select 260 degrees. Enter. Then I'm going to hit autopilot, and then I'm going to hit heading select. And there we go. Okay. Otherwise, if you hit heading select first, the aircraft's going to jerk whatever direction it needs to in order to get on whatever is pre-programmed. If you haven't programmed anything and you hit heading select, it's going to head due north. Okay? And then we can hit our barometric altitude to lock our altitude down. Okay. So that's the autopilot and handbasket. Really isn't a whole lot to it. Pretty simple to use. So now let's talk about our sequences. So we're going to come down here. Now we currently have sequence 2 selected. We don't have anything in sequence 2. So we need to go back to sequence 1. And then we're going to box it. Now we're quite a ways away from the flight plan. The other thing I'm going to do is change it to the correct waypoint. Okay, so we want waypoint 2 was the first one in our sequence here. So what I'm going to do first, because we're going to fly a specific route, is I'm going to fly the aircraft to right here and then turn to get on our route. Okay, so coming off the autopilot, bringing her left, I'm going to go ahead and accelerate quite a bit, and I'm also going to speed time up. That way I'm not sitting here burning the midnight hour here for you guys here, or the midnight oil, as you guys sit here and watch paint dry, because I know this is such exciting information. So there we go. We're currently at 20 miles setting. That's pretty good. Let's go ahead and kick this down to 10 so we can get pretty precise here. Alright, so now you can see I'm steering the aircraft to where we're going to be right on point, okay? Or at least close to as I can. Alright, that's close enough. Alright, and so now, and you can see here, so let's go ahead and level the aircraft back out. Let's speed it back up. Let's lock our barometric altitude down. Alright, so the aircraft accelerates, we should be fine. But as we look down here, we're on our flight route. Now, we may be off just a hair, but I mean, even down at 5 miles, I mean, we're skimming right past it. Certainly close enough for within parameters, right? So let's go back to 20. Alright, and there's our waypoint heading, right on track, right in front of the aircraft where it needs to be. This lets us know we're flying towards our desired waypoint. You can now see our bearing of 081 degrees, which is right off the nose. Okay, 26.6 nautical miles and reducing, with a current intercept time of 4 minutes 15 seconds. Now let me show you something else cool about the autopilot real quick. Cruise control. So let's say we wanted to do 325 knots, sure, whatever your current airspeed is once you get it stabilized. So let's adjust the throttle a little bit. Okay, so we got it close enough. It's slowed down. If I tap the T or Tango key on my keyboard, we're now in auto throttle. And the auto throttle will now lock the aircraft down at 336 knots. Okay, you can use this in a maintained turn. Okay, so I'm going to disengage my autopilot for a second. And let's say we wanted to do an orbit at 336 knots. We then hit our barometric altitude, because remember, barometric altitude, the only thing it's doing is holding your altitude. So this is how you put yourself into an orbit. Okay, and you can set the degree of orbit as you choose. I think there is a limit of bank angle, but I mean, don't put yourself in a 90-degree orbit. That'd be kind of silly. But you know, 45-degree can certainly handle. All right, but it's going to put us in a 45-degree orbit here, or whatever your bank angle is here, at 336 knots, as long as you see this ATC engaged. Now, if I hit the T key again, auto throttle is disengaged, so you can see that our speed has changed slightly and slowly increasing. Okay, so we're no longer monitoring our speed. And then if I put the ATC back on, we'll now hold steady about 340 knots. If I hit the paddle switch, okay, we've now lost the autopilot hold, so it's no longer going to hold our bank angle, but it will continue to hold our speed. So you have to hit T again to disengage the speed. If it's flashing for 10 seconds, it means that it's in a setting where you can stabilize your speed and reprogram it, but once it's 10 seconds has expired, it will, as you saw there, shut itself off. Okay, so back to the waypoint. So as you guys can see, sequences are pretty easy to manage. There really isn't a whole lot to them. It's not rocket science, right? You know, the sequence allows you to fly the route. You guys saw how I got on the route, and we would just do that for any of the waypoints in the selected sequence. Okay. Now, the next thing I want to show you guys is real quick is the auto step feature. What will not happen unless you tell it to is when we've currently, in our current configuration, once we reach waypoint 2, it will not automatically switch to waypoint 3. Okay, or in this case, waypoint 1. It will not automatically switch to the next waypoint in the sequence. And I'm going to show you guys here in a second. So I'm going to go ahead and steer back onto our waypoint. Now we're flying direct. We're no longer on our correct route. Remember, this route is actually supposed to be taking us down to 1 based on how we set this up. So I'm going to go ahead and speed up time again. Okay, so we're approaching the expiration point. We'll go ahead and get back on course here. And notice the waypoint's expiring, and the only thing that's happened now is that now our distance and range is increasing. What we have to do in order to get the waypoint to automatically cycle is come down here and press auto. And you can see that the waypoint move now has switched to the next waypoint in the selected sequence. Alright. So with the waypoint now selected in the sequence, we can now turn and head towards our next waypoint. And then when we get to waypoint 1, it would then automatically switch over to waypoint 3 at our target area, and so on and so forth. Alright, so we've gotten that part covered. There really isn't a whole lot much more to waypoints as far as navigation goes, so I'm going to go ahead and lock our barometric altitude in. You guys know how to now create a sequence, how to edit a sequence, how to delete a sequence. We know how to create and edit waypoints. Waypoints cannot be deleted. We now see where our bearing and range information and time till arrival is. Remember, if you unbox waypoint, you lose all of your indications on the HUD, so in order to track on the HUD, you must make sure it's boxed. Okay? And remember that when you have a sequence selected, or a waypoint, or a sequence with waypoints in it, you can only see oh no, hey, we just learned something new. Okay, so this is kind of cool, guys. So even with sequence 1 selected, okay, because it's not boxed, I can cycle through all of my waypoints that we entered into the UFC. I didn't know this part. If we box it, then we're restricted to whatever waypoints are in the sequence. Okay, so all you have to do to select all of the waypoints currently programmed is have one unboxed, and then you can see all of your waypoints. So it doesn't matter. And so now here, because there's nothing in it, it's going to keep counting all the way up to 60. So let's bring that back down, and we can actually go back to sequence 1 there. So here, yeah, see, there's your 60 waypoints. You can see all of the waypoints that are programmed though. Okay, you just have to know how many are in there. Okay, so again, we've covered entering and editing waypoints, creating and deleting sequences. You know that your heading bug or your waypoint bug is up here on the HUD. Fly it into the heading caret in order to fly direct. Remember, you have to box your sequence in order to fly the routes. Once the sequence is boxed, you can only cycle through the waypoints that are in that current sequence. We went through the autopilot. Attitude hold holds the pitch and bank angle of the aircraft, but does not monitor your speed. Heading select, make sure that you program your desired heading before activating that, otherwise it's going to go to the default, which is true north, or it's going to go to whatever heading was previously selected, and then you have to sit there and try to change it as you're sitting there steering and flying all over the place like a retard. Okay, altitudes, barometric altitude is your altitude according to sea level, so once you select that, you'll maintain whatever is boxed in the window or close to. Radar altimeter, below 5,000 feet, your aircraft's going to constantly be changing its pitch and angle based on the surface below. Auto throttle, for cruise mode anyway, you can use it in any level flight, so as long whether you're in a turn or whether you are flying straight and level, you can engage your auto throttle and maintain speed. Auto throttle with barometric altitude, very nice for running in orbit. Okay, I think that pretty much covered everything that we touched on today, guys. Let me know if you guys liked the video in the comments below. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you guys in the next one, where we go over TACAN and how to use it to fly our tankers and how to get back home. Talk to you guys soon.